It occurred during the gas shortage back in the, was that in the 70s?
That was in, around 70s. 76, 75.
Yeah, late 70s. Walk us through that story. It's pretty fascinating.
We had a very small garage with a small capacity of fuel. We only sold probably 1,000 gallons of gas a day. When the gas shortage hit, they cut us down to approximately half of that inventory. So I was only allowed to sell, or they were only allowed to deliver 500 or 600 gallons of gasoline a day. That doesn't go far when you have 20 commercial accounts to keep with their trucks full of fuel. They depend on you. So we had to do something to cut down on the traffic. What we did was I put signs up, $2 limit. For strangers that came in, they could only get $2 worth of gas. And even at that, that didn't work. We ended up putting up customers-only signs, all kinds of things like that. And when this one day, this guy comes in, and he...
Hold on, Cole.
Thank you.
One day, this guy pulled in, and he had an Oldsmobile or a Buick. I didn't know who it was. Pulls into the gas station, and he says, fill it up. And I had already had confrontations that day. I was in a bad mood, so I yelled at the guy. I said, hey, can't you see the sign, $2 limit? All of a sudden, he pulls out this gun, and he points it at me. And he says, I said fill it up. And I says, okay. And, it's amazing. That was the first day that I had an armed guard in my office that particular day. And when I walked away, I winked to the office, and my friend that was in there with his gun, as soon as I got out of the way, he whipped the front door open of the office and came pointing his gun out right at this guy's head, which was only 10 feet from the door because the pumps were right there at the entrance. And the guy drove away in a frenzy. He even caught his hat in the electric window. It was crushed. And he had it running. He had it in gear, apparently. And he drove away so quickly when he saw the guy come out with the gun. It just crushed his hat in the window, and because he was leaning out the window with the gun like this. And years later, I see a wanted poster, and I look at this guy and says, oh, my God, that's the guy that pulled the gun on me at the gas pumps. I had no idea that it was Whitey Bulger.
Wow. Let's go to the phone lines. We have a caller. Yeah, you're first, and anything goes. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Hi. Good. I'm sorry. I got a quick question. He talked a lot about, the way I'm perceiving it is that he is on the fence of life. Between good and evil, he's on the fence. And he never crossed the line. How do you get away from it once you're friendly? Because obviously you're interacting with these people on a regular basis, and you can't obviously just disappear from their life because either it looks suspicious or they question you. So how do you pull away from a situation like that without either offending or making people angry because you choose to walk a different road?
I could pull away very easily for one simple reason. I never played ball with them. I refused every single one of their offers. And the problem is that once people accept one of their offers or a favor or whatever, then it gets harder and harder to say no to these people. I mean, I actually was having a problem with this one guy that was pretty serious, and I was mad. I was young. I was in my 20s, and I had been involved in a business deal with him that went bad. Well, the mob heard about it, and this well-known bookie from the west side drives up to my pumps one day. He usually would just sit at the pumps and let me pump the gas and count money in his lap. But this one particular day, he got out of his car, and he stood with me behind the car, and he says, Tom, he says, I heard you're having trouble with so-and-so. And I says, yeah. And I had sent somebody to talk to him and try to recoup what he had screwed me out of at the time. And the mob got word of it. So this guy says to me, he says, give me 67 cents. And I says, why do you want 67 cents? He just holds his hand out. He says, give me 67 cents, and so-and-so is history. He says, you buy the bullet, and he's gone. So there's a guy that's offering to kill somebody for me. I almost fell over at the pumps, to tell you the truth. And I says, no amount of money is worth somebody's life, I told the guy. I says, no, thank you very much. I'm not interested. But this is, can you imagine if I had let them do that job for me?
No, you'd be in jail or dead today.
No. How could I say no to them storing their trucks of a hijacked truck of whiskey from that point on?
Right.
After
now they own you.
They own me for 67 cents. No matter how little it is, I paid to have somebody killed, they could say.
Yeah. But at some point you must have stopped going to the taverns. You must have stopped interacting with them. Didn't anybody say, hey, gee, what's the matter with you?
I never stopped. Because, the reason I slowed down was I met a wonderful girl that lived in Taunton, and I ended up getting married to her, and she saw the errors in the way of doing business and kind of set me straight. And, you can't be married and keep drinking and driving and things like that.
Right.
And thank God I cut that stuff down. And no, but I would still go down to the tavern even after I got married and have one or two beers before going home. So I was still friendly in contact with all of them. And like I say, they had no hold on me. So there was no leaving. It's not, you have to be involved in order to leave.
And they never suspected you of flipping if they got in trouble with the
hell no.
FBI or
no.
Nobody questioned you?
No, because that was just understood. They would,
right.
Because I had done business with these people since I was a little kid, don't forget.
Right. Okay.
All right, Paul.
Thank you for calling.
Right. Thanks
well,
for the
thank
call.
you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And phone lines are open, 508-822-1106. So, yeah, that's something where, it's a great question.
I like that. Yeah.
How do you say no? And I guess the lesson here is if you say no once, always say no. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's all over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's how you say no, too.
Right.
I mean, thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah.
You don't say, how dare you ask me to do this stuff, because, like I said, you have to coexist. If you're in a tank full of sharks, you cannot, just throw out hooks every time they drive by,
So you were talking about the famous Whitey encounter.
Mm-hmm.
Any repercussions from that?
Well, there was always a few mysterious bullet holes that ended up in the front door of the garage or in the side entrance. But that was something that happened over the years,
Right.
So I have no idea what the connection there was to anything. It might have been somebody I refused an inspection sticker to during that day. Who knows?
Right.
But one day I came in, and the two gas pumps were smashed right to the ground. And I thought, oh, my God, some drunk must have hit the pumps in the middle of the night. So as it turned out, my gas jockey lived on the third floor across the street directly across from the pumps. He was an old retired guy, and I hired him to pump gas for me. But he was a smoker, and his wife used to make him smoke at the front window, out of his, hanging out the front window of his house. So I'm looking at the pumps, I'm shaking my head, and he comes walking over, and I says, John, look, some drunk must have hit the pumps. He says, no, Tom, it wasn't any drunk. I said, what do you mean? He says, 1 o'clock in the morning last night, I was sitting in my window, having a cigarette, and this big black Oldsmobile pulls up and smashes right into one of the pumps on purpose. He hit it twice or whatever. And then he says, I thought maybe they just didn't see it, he says. But they went around the block, came back, and did the same thing to the other pump. So apparently they were waiting to see if there was a fire that's going to start or something. Mm-hmm. And when no fire started, they came back and they did a number on the other pump. So now that could have been retribution for anything. It could have been because of that situation. I have no way of telling.
Right.
But
that story you told to the call a few minutes ago, that's actually part of the story that's in the excerpt that's on your website.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I think if you go on his website and you read that, it's going to make you want to go out and buy this book and say, hey, if this is, if there are more episodes like this happening, it's going to be a very interesting read. So it's 10:50. We're going to take a quick break, our last break of the morning. Be right back with more of Anything Goes with Tom. 822-1106. This is our first day in WVBF of streaming live on the internet. And during that break, we got a call from Tom's sister.
Hello, sister.
In Colorado, listening to us. So great. We know it's working out there. So we're now world famous.
Good timing. Today is our first day on the internet.
Good timing. Phone lines are open, 508-822-1106. Give us a call. Any questions for Tom? Feel free to ask him. G Street. You mentioned G Street.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the